from Egypt. And so they arrived there in Shechem, that is the town. It's about 30 miles north of Jebus, where Jerusalem is. And what is the first major event that takes place? Jacob's daughter, his only daughter at this point it seems, leaves the house and she goes to spend time with the people of the land, with the pagan peoples. And it says in verse 2, and when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, that is meant to key in the reader here to a group of people that were amongst the nations of peoples that God was going to drive out of the land of Israel. When they came out of Egypt and were moving back into the land of Canaan, the Hivites are included in almost every single list in the Old Testament of the peoples that God would drive out of the land of Israel. The Jebusites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites. Hamor is one of these godless peoples that God would eventually drive out of the land of Israel. And it's his son, it's Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite. And who is Shechem? It says that he is the prince of the land. He is the prince of the land. So aside from his father, Shechem is the most highly respected and revered man in that town, in that city. Remember that. Because if anything happens to Shechem, what are the people of the city going to do? They're going to rise up and they're going to defend their prince. Take note of that. This is Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land. And what does he do? He sees Dinah. He lusts after her. It says he seized her. That is a violent taking, a violent grabbing. That was not a seduction. It was a capturing of this woman. He seized her, lay with her, and humiliated her. He profaned her. He took away her innocence. He violated her. This is the same exact way that in various other places in the Old Testament that rape is described. Shechem has just done something of the highest level of evil and wicked. He's raped. Look at verse 3, because this is quite shocking. Verse 3 and 4 says, and his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. I tell you, when I read that, I honestly could care less how Shechem felt. The fact that his soul is just warmed with feelings of affection for Dinah doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything to mitigate the fact that he raped this woman. It says, so Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, get me this girl for my wife. It doesn't seem that Shechem has any problem at all with what he has just done. He's seemingly justifying himself because he has feelings for her. And so he justifies his sin because he has feelings for her. This is out of order, isn't it? It's vastly out of order. You know, the Bible is very clear. One of the very first commands or principles that God gives us in His Word is actually the principle concerning sexual intercourse. One of the primary functions of our bodies as creatures. In Genesis chapter 2, let me read this for you here. Genesis chapter 2, verses 22 through 25. In fact, our sexual function, the proper use of that, engagement of that, is actually codified in the way God created us. Listen to what it says. Genesis 2, verses 22 through 25. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, He made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, this at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore, so based in this created order, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. You see the order of things there? There is a marriage that takes place first. A man leaves his father and mother, joins himself to his wife, and then the two become one flesh. In our world, that's flipped entirely on its head. It's flipped entirely backwards. And people wonder why they get themselves in all manner of trouble in this life related to their relationships. It's because they get the order wrong. They get the order wrong because they don't actually believe what God wrote here in the book of Genesis. And then it says this in verse 25 of Genesis 2. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. There's no shame in that. That it was built into the created function of man for one man and one woman to be joined together in a marriage first and then to consummate that marriage sexually. That is the order. That is the parameters around human sexuality. And what does Shechem do? He does whatever he wants. He doesn't recognize the created order. He doesn't recognize the way in which God made mankind. He has no recognition of this whatsoever. He sees, he feels, he pursues, he seizes, he lays with her, he humiliates her. And then he says, I love you. If he loved her, he would not have humiliated her. If he loved her, he would not have abused her. He does not love her. He lusts for her. He feels things and he contrives that as love.